turn it off when it's over.
Yeah, turn it off when it's over.
Turn it off when it's over.
Alright, I sent it. There we go. There we go. Did it actually do it? Connected automatically to the Wi-Fi. Without that.
We'll ask for Can you pop off however you want to pop off?
Alright. I need some talent. I was black and white. I just traded just everywhere. I did kind of. You have a preference on what color? No, it's not good.
Alright. See what not already. Okay.
Condition 1 is time of war. 1 U.S. primacy nations unstable and creates a hostile China rise that undermines credibility with allied China looks up years through the influence of the U.S. signals combination here in 19. China is pursuing hegemony, but a hostile hegemony indicates that due to coexistence of relevant influence China China imposes system China can tolerate American presence less than containing China's primary power has little need for revenge because of their presence fail. And the neighbors and neighbors in China China will expand because Beijing need to be more certain when this set of peace be to end. Oh, whether the U.S. try to start to interest use primacy is not sustainable. Power rejection is eroding allies. Time to see China to turn Asian allies appear uncertainty. But Washington's attention to security upholding primacy would increase the chance of aggressive Charles hegemony could become self-fulfilling prophecy. Washington, the escalating pursuit of long-term state balance power. 2. Absence of combination powers escalating military conflicts. 19 growing suspicion, increasing U.S. China crisis as a result of resolve Taiwan. China's power and decline U.S. predominance will cause China to overestimate its leverage on Taiwan. It could cause the U.S. to overreact to reassuring understandings on the intentions of best calculation. Escalating test of relative result. The U.S. one-China policy collapse. The result could be a military conflict. This should lead to stable balance in Asia and then defusing of conflict. Mutual combination. 3. Ending options is a key. Other options fail because China cares about Taiwan more than the U.S. is going to sustain. Most support for Chinese politics is Taiwan. This will be unsustainable. The growing military upgrade and running revenge and eventually we have a Chinese resistance. The best option for preventing wars, deepening combination outside will benefit relations by removing a major stumbling block for developing bilateral military ties. America does not have many other viable alternatives for ending conflict. Negotiating it would be difficult. Same conflict in Taiwan would lead to a major war and end American weapons bringing negotiations. 4. Recent missiles are relying mainly from China's nationalism while cementing containment. Lead 19. Taiwan's planes will alternately balance the Greenland from defense offense by across the list seems to indicate that independence is critical to U.S. strategy. Keeping the feeling confined to inside the first island chain with blow sheets plan. She implied reunification was a historic cast out. Makes the film less likely. She is being criticized if the U.S. goes out with F-16. The pressure will be immense. 5. Arms sales of bold Taiwanese independence movement. That's Chinese red line against escalation of the U.S. 1018. Military action from Washington have been seen as U.S. support for Taiwan's independence, which could undermine regional stability. Trump has ramped up arms sales, inching closer to Beijing's red line size. Relocated cross-state tensions are likely to escalate further. Trump could really embolden side of move toward independence. 83% of Taiwan will oppose she's one country, two systems, risk assessment, and the side Washington should ensure the wrong signals are not sent to Beijing. China can miscalculate the U.S. would get involved in the conflict, and that would really be dangerous. 6. Reducing arms sales signals used for reduction or versus perception of containment of regularly. 10. Washington has to scale back its arms sales to do military government. Washington reinforces Taiwan's rejection of vision to Taiwan as a militarized base with the U.S. strategic goal by signaling that Washington is respecting China's territorial integrity and rejections lead to forced reduction by China as well. As into Taiwan focused military attack drills to finalize Taiwan. When improve the chance of peacefully rising China, Taiwan could create a model for the peaceful resolution of China's many conflicts throughout Asia. 7. The crisis over Taiwan draws the escalates alone when China considers Taiwan as home when unification remains a key political goal. China will use force of Taiwan to close in advance because China places such high value on Taiwan that issue poses special danger in a different category than Japan and Korea. Crisis over Taiwan can easily escalate a nuclear war because each day might seem rational if the act is small. The U.S. finds their pressure to protect Taiwan against attack. Given limited control that Washington has over Taipei crisis can unfold in which the U.S. found itself following events improvements in China's military capabilities make Beijing more willing to ask China's nuclear modernization, lead Beijing to behave more boldly. 8. War over Taiwan goes nuclear because Chinese nuclear and conventional forces are entering Taiwan. China's increasing pressure on Taiwan. Military competition for Chinese campaign against Taiwan seems plausible. China's nukes intermingle with its conventional forces make it difficult to attack while the other conventional forces generate pressure to escalate. If U.S. operations endanger China's China's big forces. Chinese leaders might think that Washington aims beyond the conventional war. Beijing might conclude nuclear escalation was viable. The most warriors and flashpoint in Taiwan. China could decide that the window for control was closing and attack using air forces to blockade Taiwanese harbors or bombard island. China could use itself to blockade Taiwanese harbors or attack U.S. forces. U.S. anti-submarine campaign cut off its boomers leaving. Chinese leaders unsure favored U.S. strategy when endangered nuclear arms for wartime developments could shift China's assumptions about U.S. intentions. Beijing might see nuclear escalation as waiting in the conflict. 9. Arms deals don't change the balance of power in Asia, but ending them improves relation, which increases the cost of going to war. 17. It's not obvious that the arms themselves have a large impact to give out power balance. Effect will depend on the types of weapons, expensive SCCs are counterproductive, given their high costs, and the PRCs are growing their capabilities. The mundane system will likely be more effective. Sending sales will be a significant improvement in the U.S.-China relationship. The PRC will have more to lose by initiating conflict. Ending arms sales could help to reinforce the stable status quo. 10. The PRCs prove Chinese revision defense realism more explanatory power. Jewel 19. China showed left revisionist tendencies. China's turned a revolution running increasingly preserve cooperative approach within Myanmar, Nepal, Pakistan, Russia, Vietnam. China engaged in the national media. Asia has seen regional institutions that vacate air often. Some of China's not given with the UN, WTO, and CBA. Focus on economic development and regionalization set of hegemonic behavior. China has been destabilizing world economics. American weapons to Taiwan encouraging the threat to its the SES had dispute as existed for centuries. The U.S. is increasing their friendship in front of China. Design expansion designs Beijing act justice stage strategy to safeguard interest U.S. influence. Results of the China acting more certainly the U.S. would act aggressively hating countries standing for close to support of China's behavior as an international power does not have the support offensive realism. 11. The CS conflict closed out its best claim to China's defensive realism where this year 14 years China shifted from being offensive realist. China adopted strategy of engagement. The strategy shows China's defensive realist. China is never meant to be offensive. It's claimed to be honest, not contemporary. China regards its attitude of self-defense and discerned by hostile neighbors. The U.S. has stood its uneasy as China never submits to cooperation. The SES in the plan. The United States recognition will implement a substantial reduction of its direct merchandise and foreign military sales of arms. The United States with Taiwan continues relation 1. Current Taiwan officers and share major breakdown U.S.-China relations. Low by 19 nature competitions playing out disputes are more located through escalation. China's Taiwan is the thing that China's promotes about U.S. interfering with Taiwan. Its national third world $2 billion arms subjects delicate war during a delicate time should antagonize Beijing. We urge you to stop ourselves to avoid doing serious damage to China isolation because this issue touch upon China's foreign by no means this is something that could be used as bargaining chip. They China's U.S. interference is encouraged but not severe for the whole suit. U.S. arms deals threaten cooperation across the board. China 18. Relation arbitration measures used to immediately cancel this to avoid doing serious damage to cooperation in important areas. Now, Beijing was likely to retire much more confident now in the reposition to take a quicker countermeasures than before the U.S. was working on prolific can expect China to cooperate will hurt in China's interest timing and fear to Beijing 3. But the plenty escalates tensions and builds shots through the 12 bills as one of these resolution one facilities Taiwan are viewed and Beijing is confirming American determination in interfering in China's domestic affairs and peace reunification arming. Chinese war interest lack of discussion and scripture enhancing mutual distrust and reducing the chance of maintaining the peace in the Taiwan Strait. 4. The global non-proliferation regime is on the brink of failure that ensures cascades of horizontal proliferation might increase the regime's efficacy. Some in the nuclear states across the 19th the major challenges to the non-proliferation regime including major violations, namely Iraq, Romania, North Korea, Libya, Iran, and Syria. But political ambivalence, many governments were presented as North-South issue. The spread of nuclear attack enrichment and repurposing designs. Most of the IAEA's capability, Argentina, Brazil, Egypt, Syria, Venezuela, Saudi Arabia, plan significant nuclear activity. States maintain that the additional protocols, voluntary ambiguous provisions of the horizontal proliferation counter the spread of nuclear weapons to additional states. 5. China is the key player preventing proliferation. U.S. concession on Taiwan is key to unlock further cooperation. 18. China engaged in industry language by linking up U.S. policy toward Taiwan. China should give to block both threats. China confess people position for proliferation major source of nuclear attacks, private missiles, create strong ally influence on UNSC, IAEA, multilateral negotiations. China's provided support to proliferate such pacts in the code area. China is determining under whether efforts to curb proliferation succeed. China linkages most likely if your counterpart has influence or major interest. U.S. influence over Taiwan, particularly U.S. offices Taiwan, Taipei. The China preventing Taiwanese independence is a core interest in U.S. arms transfers are welcome interference. 6. Nuclear proliferation causes nuclear war. Mad rationality don't prevent it. 15. Third things, the more states, the more they're greater the probability won't before. But new nuclear states will go through a transition period in which they lack secure second strike capability. One or both might believe that it hasn't to use first the state with the nuclear advantage might believe it has a splendid first strike capability. Might feel used and resist pressure due to reciprocal fears of surprise attack. One might start war. And the belief that war is inevitable, and even in the world of bad, there is still a risk war this time. Need to resort to irrationality. Of course, it is might choose a little bit of the war could result in devastating nuclear exchange. 7. Arms is the key sticking point of highlighting its policy ensures China will explode on non-proliferation by 2018. Beijing used non-cooperation over non-proliferation as a tool of retaliation. China started linking to non-proliferation policy, U.S. policy in related areas. China expected U.S. concession on Taiwan episodes. The U.S. to cooperate on proliferation. China has retaliated when the U.S. has assured our Chinese interests. China uses system proliferation as a bargaining tool containing China preventing proliferation may be incompatible. 8. New proliferation is unstabilizing. 18. Nuclear exchange would produce such horrendous outcomes directly reshaping international politics. Statistics while means these dangers can only rise as the number of nuclear states increase. The more active, the more potential diets, the more likely organizational features to result in risky nuclear decision making, the more likely some variable outside mutual deterrence will determine outcomes, even if these risks are small. Nuclear proliferation multiplies them and the consequences are massive. I'm ready for cross.
So your Tay evidence about Taiwanese independence doesn't assume like the recent Chinese interference in Taiwan's independence and also how China has been like taking out Taiwan's diplomatic allies to prevent independence. How does like your act assume that?
Yeah, so we don't have to, Taiwan doesn't have to declare independence in order to trigger our impact. It's only about the perception that U.S. is as a
Okay,
favor
but
of
China, if
independence.
China's been like taking out Taiwan's allies, don't they have the perception that they're like, they have it covered?
I mean, I guess that's an example that China is hell-bent on reunification with Taiwan. The only question is whether that's peaceful or not.
Okay. So your Jalil evidence about Chinese revisionism is from the Institute of Strategic Studies Islamabad, which is directly funded by the state of Pakistan, who's like gets a lot of funding from China. Why isn't this just like China saying that they're not revisionists?
Well, like, that is a very long chain. I'm not sure the money goes that far. Also, like, these researchers are under intense scrutiny, so if they were just making things up, that they wouldn't be an institute anymore, and the examples
It's like a think
are
tank.
standalone by themselves.
It's like a think tank.
Okay,
Let me-
and if you
let me
don't buy
add-
that, the Raditio card and the HERE card are all defensive realism cards.
Okay, that's fine. On your Chen evidence, it says how, in some of the shrunk text, it says how arms aren't enough to like signal, like to China that, arms aren't enough to signal to China that we're stopping like relations. How, like, can you explain your Chen evidence?
Wait.
Right, so the Chen evidence is from 2017, which was before the F-16V sales were announced. And F-16Vs uniquely crossed China's red line because they're offensive weapons.
Okay.
Those sales just went through in August. Those emboldened China to attack Taiwan.
The shrunk text says when the Obama administration was considering the F-16 package in 2011.
Right, so those were F-16As and Bs, which
Yeah,
were
and that one.
defensive jets,
And that
and
one.
the F-16Bs are offensive jets.
Okay, okay, on your relations advantage, can you explain like who would proliferate if,
The Carlson card is very good at this. It says, A, there are states that are proliferating now, which China can help prevent or limit that proliferation. And B, there are countries that have intentions to proliferate that China can also stop.
can you like explain how China would like prevent them from proliferating?
Yeah, so one of the main things well, first, it would stop them from giving nuclear technology to countries that wanted to proliferate. And B, then it would bring them into the NPT and other organizations like that to help put pressure on countries that are proliferating, such an example of this is like Iran, when the national community came together to put pressure on Iran not to proliferate.
Okay, on your evidence, on your Gilly evidence, can you like explain how actually,
The order is 6 off war relations.
How many on?
6. Is anyone not good?
Alright.
No. First off, Taiwan U.S. ties and insurance is high in the arms sales prices. Global insurance is Wing 18. One of the strongest in the co-op with Taiwan and linked to a credible U.S. to protecting allies of banning would reduce allies' confidence sending shockwaves to Washington taking measures to upgrade relations past the TDA encourages business. NDA calls for strengthening partnership. Took an unusual step forward in countries switching recognition in U.S. support of Taiwan to grow and ending arms sales to Taiwan. Crushers faith in the U.S. order to dissent starts with the end of U.S.-Japan ties 2013. Ending seals of Japan alliance. Japan's strategic choice handled Taiwan. Japanese alliance, the U.S. established Taiwan fall into China. Japan's peace intimately tied to Taiwan and credibility of security commitments key to prevent allied proliferation. 13. Assurances prevent allied proliferation. Why assurances is more effective period comparison when the assurances succeeded. Assurances prevent allies' perception of credit is important if allied police continue committing illicit invasion Korean UK fearing increased proliferation when the allied began to perceive the U.S. was firmly investigating proliferation and East Asian proliferation uniquely causes nuclear war. 16. Nuclear by 2020 have the ability to hit the U.S. with nuclear 100 worth his South Korea and Japan have attacked found nuclear weapons and sure the world would be dangerous to destabilizing nuclear arms race involving Japan, Tokyo, nuclear in China, similar to India and Pakistan, China, catastrophic conflict will be greatly increased. And second option, Trump's European relations stay off impeachment now, but new fights could change that. Sin 926. Trump finds some playing defense own party until now official situation and now Republicans to leverage its possible 20 Republicans in his presidency. Neither reserve PC to short support with no party to pick fights, but reduce more political law proceeding consider political media action, and the plan turned GOP against him. Starting at 18. China's planning to open global spending weapon making for easier American manufacturers sell abroad major weapons manufacturer cash in. Daily pending open swing states district the type of influence voters. Trump long emphasized job creation above a popular way for the president to look at the stimulating economic activity. Don't expect armies or lobbyists or allies in Congress to stop crying out for more weapons spending is making us any safer to change in Washington taking major pushback yet to materialize. And recent Senate passed a bipartisan bill supporting Taiwan to the app is going back to seen as further evidence of erratic foreign policy. Jan 926. Senate passed a bill to support Taipei's allies as it demands a whole government to ramp up support for Taiwan, send a strong message there will be consequences of supporting action that undermine Taiwan, and that forced them to first strike North Korea. Zenko 17. Trump authorized a preemptive attack to immediately retaliate. Trump is facing scandalous potential impeachment and has decided a preemptive attack from North Korea's worth the consequences. The president more likely to engage in diversion when they just wrestle further characterization of Trump and causes escalatory CBW nuclear war. Bad 17. American first trickle one of the worst mass killings in human history. Kim's arsenal target not possibly 100% and lucky put them on the mobile system. Deep underground nuclear chemical and biological weapons missiles. Preemptive strikes to leave the ground war. Would be South Korea's economy. Don't take out all the batteries you have and the nations raining down on Seoul. And third off, the United States federal government should declare support of the Republic of China's observer status and international institutions, reaffirm its commitment to the One China policy, declare that it will rescind the Taiwan Relations Act, the Republic of China declares independence, decouple arms sales from stimulus legislation, clarify that arms sales to the Republic of China are linked to the People's Republic of China's offensive military capabilities, conduct future arms sales to the Republic of China on a per-item continual basis, and incremental solution solve best, abandoning the fundamentals of TRA's destabilizing. Hickey 13, changing U.S. policy unintentionally complicated, jeopardize peace. You should not alter policy, do not revise the TRA. U.S. should find ways of Taiwan supposed to be heard, and likely steps will provoke Beijing not juggle with China policy. U.S. maintains strong and official links with Taiwan commitments, upgrade the island's war planning, contribution to Taiwan security, underscores U.S. commitment to Washington best and maintain the relationship with Taipei and Beijing. Policy will contribute to the peace and stability in future years. And Salami tactics, temporary China retaliation, and reassure allies. Albin 16. Using Salami tactics does not mean selling pure arms, spending on the sale cost transaction too small to provoke a Chinese response. There's no need to large numbers of the same weapon system all at once. And fourth off, arms sales are increasing. Go to fifth off. The United States federal government should maintain arms sales to Taiwan, increase assurance and encourage China to participate in NPT, clarify nuclear policies mutually, and the confidence also use Chinese interests for leverage. Camp 18. Cross-present negotiations with China remain dim and security by minimal nuclear arsenal as well as insistent Bush on Moscow committed Beijing not fully lived up to the committee not pro lacks up for control sanction following policy recommendations, engage in bilateral confidence building. U.S. should engage in high-level dialogue with China, clarify each other's nuclear policy, strengthen alliances, credibility, U.S. security and commitments. China will continue nuclear forces, while the U.S. to reassure its allies in East Asia leverage China's desire for stability, encourages participation in non-cooperative efforts, and arms sales are enough to solve. When they see Chen, we're yellow. Chen 17. Not even signaling effect. Arms sales have U.S. arms sales send a signal support for Taiwan. When sales are costly for the U.S. Yet the U.S. benefit economically and politically from sales. All Chinese retaliation remains limited. Costs do not appear high, do not appear that the arms sales represent strong signal U.S. commitment, and the arms sales not lead China to alter assessments of U.S. behavior. This did cause by reduced arms sales could be quite small. 6. Off the counterclaim text, the United States federal government should articulate red lines for adversary behavior towards the United States space assets. Red lines are key to deterrence and allow international attribution. McNeil comment 12. Space system vulnerable attack, emerging threats, cyber-enabled attacks, kinetic attacks. U.S. Space security strategy must be calibrated to personal red lines, monitoring threat of space system red lines, strengthening efforts to deter aggressive behavior, help policymakers determine defensive action, justify red lines impact the development of tech clear in one sphere and force progress on the other. On war. One, Chinese efforts to destabilize Taiwan allies are one powerful to declare independence. Screenshot Xi 920. China campaigning to cut off Taiwan's diplomatic partners and the casually Beijing to cease isolating Taiwan. Beijing use influence to pick off Taiwan's diplomatic partners, Salami Islands, other panel assassinating the Dominican Republic, Burkina Faso, Beijing clear Kiri Valley by promising full funding for airplanes. China's campaigners affected the Taiwan independence movement. And 2, when Beijing inevitable too critical for Chinese FOCO abandonment just means it happens now guarantees Taiwan loses, encourages further expansion of the plan for 1018. Trump explained why he abandoned the Kurds 7,000 miles away. Taiwan aimed further away. Trump and Greenland, Chinese invasion, Taiwan, Chinese attack on Taiwan with U.S. actors will cut allies of Japan, so suspect Washington's commitment to build North Korea, U.S. commitment to Taiwan security, but why reason not attempted the agency announced China will not abandon the use of force, prepare to take all necessary measures across crush buddies, shouted Bruce Taiwan clearly the ruler sees decision to serve as president for life, president will be a wild card of the U.S. should not waver support on the island. And 3, China's victory means inevitable revisionist policies and tendencies to strategically inform to ignore defensive realism is still realism. Moscow 18. The location occupies such a position China with facilities China's operations SES planes even more aggressively neither China land with even more brutal and more easily enforceable as the intersection of danger points of even Korean pillars of ballistic missiles because be used in Taiwan retarding against shipping these to the country at advantage President make SES Chinese like President new threats to Japan have economic diplomatic and political implementations to put into more pro-China policy position consolidating control. And 4, no U.S. China war. Heat 17. Religion tension relative stability make access in war extremely unlikely China and the U.S. Remain far from rivalry defined Soviet relations, military underscores a strained rivalry, market rivalry, and best scholarship and empirical evidence prove China's expansion is planned concession will only greenlight further aggression and empower nationalists, increasing the risk of war. Weighing 18. States have misrepresented true claims claiming China's movement by eliminating empirically knowledge. There is no conclusive evidence for eliminating China, banning Taiwan. It's dangerous. Occupants Beijing, Washington, Harvard has been intentions. Beijing seeking etc. U.S. weakening as a vindication of China's power. Dual national Chinese capabilities project power be enhanced, market enhanced, and good nationalism doesn't explain Chinese actions. Show 19. By a case of representative of China's behavior. And irregular rights defense patrols coming in 2006, establishing vessel surveillance as SCSC have long been representative of China's merits and policy level. Nothing new with nationalism evident from the fact that no will publicize China compelling alternative aggression of power resources. Explain China's behavior. Nationalist public opinion has been cited among likely causes, but to China's official import, the domestic guidance take the credit. No. Margaret, no. Good relations. 1. Arms sales won't spill over is purely symbolic. Cosner et al. 13. Preventing the U.S. arms sales Taiwan has constrained U.S.-China cooperation. Not obvious sales have effect on relationship, and China has been reluctant to retaliate. And 2. Cooperation doesn't spill over because such don't work. Don't assume U.S. allies of China's strategic interests. Jackson 15. A deal U.S. combination in China will produce peaceful and stable Asia is realistic. Mission of change in the proposal design of U.S. solutions. Regional problems marginalized as agency of strategic relevance to U.S. allies of regions will be unlikely to follow joint with China without being private market part of it, and all cause trade war decks U.S.-China relations. Swaps document denial approves. Terror Blanket 18. China denied requires request for U.S. worship among rising tension over trade and U.S. sanction. China summoned the U.S. ambassador in Beijing postponed joint military talks. And no internal link to arms sales don't hurt relations. Empirics Grossi 16.
If you get a mark copy, please.
Yeah.
On your handout of Jaleel, where does the card say that the Strategic Studies Institute is funded by Pakistan?
I didn't read that card.
You didn't read that card? Okay. Well, let's go to the ally stuff. Where does the card, the link card, mention anything any other alliance than Japan? Where does it make a spillover claim?
It's mostly a spillover claim because Japan's like the main.
All right. Where does the card say that?
Huh?
Where does the card say that?
Let's see. Okay, so it just says that Japan's like strategically
Japan's the
a big part
okay.
of the East Asian proliferation.
On the impeachment, the SIM card says that new fights would trigger impeachment. What do those new fights look like?
What do you mean? The GOP turns against Trump because most of the GOP that supports Trump is gun lobbyists and like congressional lawmakers that like arms sales. And when he stops selling
All right,
arms
but just in the context of
Taiwan.
the SIM card, what do those, like, so if Republicans get angry with Trump's policy, they will vote to impeach him?
Yes, because the only
Okay.
thing that's stopping him from
Then on
is
the-
the
That's
GOP.
what the net benefit to the counterclaim.
What? On the Zinco evidence, what, it just says potential impeachment. So where's they basically already opened the impeachment inquiry now, and
Yeah.
and that's a potential impeachment, so where's the bright line for when he's gonna lash it out?
The bright line is once the GOP turns against him.
So once he sues the GOP. Okay. On the advanced counterclaim, the one that's incremental steps, how does it solve relations?
It solves relations because we don't immediately decrease all the assurances to Taiwan, and then other
Wait,
countries
that's-
won't perceive that as much.
No, I'm
as-
asking how does it solve our relations advantage?
Oh, your relations advantage? Well, because we still decrease the relations, and there's a lot of like diplomacy involved in this counterplan that your plan doesn't do.
What's the net benefit to the deterrence counterclaim?
Deterrence counterplan?
Yes.
Which one's that one?
Sorry?
The non-proliferation.
Just the disads and the journalists.
All of the different?
Just the assurances is that, and the
Okay.
proliferation.
On your red lines counterplan, recently, or in the Obama administration, we declared a red line in Syria, and then Russia crossed that red line. What would make this red line any different or more credible? And we didn't retaliate. What makes this red line more credible?
Okay, I guess space systems that the U.S. has now are like better than the stuff that we had during the Obama administration. And I think
Wait, what do
since-
we have now makes this different?
Well, I don't know, like I feel like, I'm pretty sure China would be more inclined.
Why would they be more inclined?
Because they have a lot of strategic interests on the line.
Okay. On the Taiwan War stuff, where does your card say that even if they are defensive realists, they'll still react aggressively on the third card you wrote?
Well, like, we have a card saying they're offensive realists, so I guess we'll say
Okay,
they're
so
offensive.
even if they're, okay, that's fine. What are examples of Chinese aggressionism?
We'd say the SCS and all the aggression towards Taiwan is revisionism, and the fact that with U.S. military presence that China has retaliated, I'd say that's deterrence.
Start, bro.
There's like cups and pictures. Yeah, I just had chickens. Chickens are really good. Because when I reset forever, just gonna stay here.
Actually, it's fine, stop, bro.
What was that? I have 819, around that.
Yeah, I have that too.
It's, let me know when you're all ready for the board.
I'm good.
Alright, it's Taiwan War, relations, Salami slicing counterplan, the deterrence counterplan with the re-highlighting of Chen, and then like the other deterrence counterplan, the red line one. Aligns.
You want to just call them deterrence and red lines from now on?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll have Salami, Deterrence, Red Line.
Alliances, then impeachment. Are we good?
You can sit down then, sure, yeah. Okay, now I'm good to go.
The case outweighs armed cells of Taiwan, agitate China, and incite lash out which leads to nuclear war, and a strong U.S.-China alliance is keeping non-proliferation norms, which encompasses all their impacts and prevents extinction on Taiwan war. Independence doesn't matter if separate internal links, that it's about Chinese perception. They said invasion are inevitable. They're right, the card was cut after F-16 sales, which means invasion is inevitable now without the plan. They're not revisionists, couldn't provide examples of good revisionism, lots of empirics for defensive realism, that's Jalil. There's China war, now they don't take into account armed cells of Taiwan, that hide race, that's Talmage. Yes, nationalism, Xi literally runs on reunification on relations. Yes, spillover. War. China is the key to non-proliferation because of their power to use issue linkage to create proliferation within countries. That's him. All causes are wrong. Taiwanese independence is the key factor that angers China, and the plan solves Chinese relations, which obviates all their all causes. That's Gomez and Lee. Arms sales do hurt relations. Taiwan's the one thing China cares about. That's Tay and Leon's salami slicing. Can't solve the app. Selling any amount of offensive weapons like F-16Bs crosses a red line that freaks out China. That's Lee. China backlashes the NEC at long 19. Arms dealing and interference in internal affairs and urges the U.S. to stop arms sales, otherwise bear on the consequences of this language is identical to the response given. The arms spoken to July, everything and missiles, Beijing and have to do any arms trades of any moment in any size or counterplan text. Masses out sales at a few billion, or best evidence gets data from a sale about 2 billion. There's functionally no difference, which means there's a double bind. A, the app is too small to trigger the net benefits impacts, or B, the sales are still too big to avoid the net benefit. Conditionality is a region to reject teams, stiff sex rats, to emphasize coverage over clash, destroys neg, advocacy sales, and exacerbate structural disparities of the neg. Vote out to preserve education and fairness, super round condo, perm to the counterplan and permaland. A substantial reduction doesn't preclude salami slicing. Implement doesn't require a set process. It can be a multitude of actions leading to a final determination of law. U.S. legal no date. USCS implement refers to actions necessary to effectuate a final determination. Perm to both. On the deterrence counterplan, the rehighlighting of China's non-responsive as per cross-sex was before the F-16B sales, which uniquely anger China. Now perm to both. Perm to the counterplan, it doesn't solve the app. One, relations. Arms sales cause China to retaliate. Non-proliferation, that's him. They do the opposite of the app. They continue arms sales. 2, independence. Arms sales signal the unconditional U.S. support, which empowers the independence movement. That means the CCP can no longer be deterred. That's 10. Glazer. Deterrence fails. 1, Taiwan is the key issue for China. They can't be deterred from taking the island. It defies utilitarian calculation. And if they're right about Chinese revisionism, then they won't be deterred from world domination by a few jets. And 2, containment breaks down trust and communication, which means mining clashes, escalating a conflict that's here and swaying. 3, China is more likely to use military force when its interests over Taiwan are being denied. The plan makes reunification palatable. China will attack quickly. Window of opportunity. Lee ensures 16. Should the U.S. argue that its current posture, China's become leaders become less confident in long-term trends, they might resort to force. While window of opportunity still exists, feel play overconfidence and balance of interest in its favor. China backlashes.
Deterrence.
Sorry. Okay. Taiwan is the most important starting point for cooperation. Glazer 15. U.S. support for Taiwan is the most important source of suspicions about U.S. motives. China's security and U.S. support of Taiwan. These are strategic distrust. China one determines the quality of status U.S.-China relations. Fundamental cause of maintaining American among the Chinese public policy change will remove the major obstacle for U.S.-China relations, which could increase cooperation on other issues. Arms sales don't matter. China spends $200 billion on defense spending, and current sales are maxed out at $2 billion. Flashy weapons like the F-16 would be destroyed easily. No appeasement, like research proves. Baynard 18. And the U.S. abandoned Taiwan in the mind of credibility. This logic is wrong. Decades of research show that there's little evidence country's record for keeping commitments to determine their credibility. Soviets did not conclude because America did not defend Vietnam, would not defend Berlin, and solving commitments undermine its reputation. Turn building relations have caused force reductions, results of the disputes of Gilly and relations in Turwar Hazard 16. Use commitments to stoke increased tensions. The key component of China's expected cause of the damage on the broader U.S.-China relationship, but if the relationship is entitled to begin, then the Beijing is less to lose. Support for Taiwan is a cause of relationship, but being self-defeating. Cross-apply that to the deterrence turn. On the red line count, all those answers on the deterrence turn, it's basically the same thing. On the red line counterplan, perm do both, perm to the counterplan. They don't stop any arms sales. It obviously can't solve the app because China cares too much about us giving arms sales to Taiwan. And that's our key internal link because China's perception that U.S. support for Taiwan via arms sales is key to emboldenment. American red lines fail. Syria proves Obama set a red line and then Russia crossed it. There's no reason China would see a red line as any hate credible now. It solves none of case one. If we win defensive realism, then this would be perceived as encroachment and China would retaliate. Plus, any arms sales to Taiwan linked to all of our links. So entire one is a sovereignty deficit, no red line credibility, became 17. U.S. leaders drive red line president Obama to red line Congress abuse authorized any attack Obama and John Kerry who left over the egg over the faces and the credibility of the country was contemplated damage. Onto alliances, the app turns pro of China's polar collapses the global non-proliferation regime, which makes the East Asian cascades more likely, and it turns their internal link U.S. primacy is unsustainable now, which creates a hostage trying to rise that undermines credibility of allies because they're uncertain about Washington and turn to their security creates distrust and doubt that's here. Troops outweigh the key to pro like causing 19. Tears and trouble little problems seem to be taking place one instance. The U.S. military deployments out discord movements are strong, so the U.S. has forced on the South territory the guarantees sufficient to have the confidence of the beneficiaries. Troop withdrawals are generally made early in the presidency of the military foundations remain strong for living among allies means unlikely. Assurance is collapsing now. Declining military advantages in Asia is eroding ally trust in U.S. commitments and capabilities to defend us here. No link. One, Taiwan's distinct, it's not a treaty ally, and other partners don't even recognize the sovereignty. Two, other alliances are different and will compartmentalize any doubts, turn the decide by forcing alliances to work harder for relationship. Blaze 15. Reliability concerns over stated security interests of Japan are much greater than the alliance involves mushrooming agreements and integration of military. The U.S. has clear rational offer and commitment to Taiwan. Taiwan increases the probability that where the U.S. could distinguish qualities, the U.S. could increase forces in Japan, deepening joint planning, high-level discussions, advocated China, Japan to work harder to strengthen the Japan alliance, not to abandon it. Trump is collapsing alliance as Wang 19.
unwillingness of Washington to decide the erosion of American power time policies, suspend the erosion and bolting governments to ignore Washington. Trump weakens the American position through self-sabotage, including benefit TPT. Trump is the only nation to fall back into traditional rivalries. More of these nations feel the U.S. is unavailable, the more they will be competitive to defend themselves from nuclear weapons. Accommodation solves. That results in improved U.S.-China relations and less Chinese aggression, which decreases allied threat perception. That's killing no Japan proliferation 17. Would Japan ever develop to know nukes not likely nuclear out Japan, the decision would require collapse of the alliance would face serious operational and political obstacles. Be very consequently makes it very vulnerable. Few places to deploy, making it vulnerable to a first strike acquisition, violate the good decision, and the Irabi had a difficult time of getting public support going nuclear. Would entail leaving the NPT. Sanctions will fall every time leaders examine. They have acknowledged the reality. SOCO is non-unique. Trump's publicly stated he wants them to nuclearize, and the U.S. to abandon them. Saudi Arabia would never acquire nukes in multiple dunkers length of 5'8". Use military presence pledge not to develop nuclear thing of the negative actor. Trump conceived that allied obligation is pleased with South Korea. No technological breakthroughs is also an important factor, but nuclear dominance are unlikely to solve our questions. Only mooted in a conservative camp. Currently, opposition to all would face economic political consequences. Lay itself open to international sanctions, given it depends on trade rating will stop at nothing, including secret services and sabotage. China goes into investment national total embargo, seeking to cause the economic crisis and drop in living standards and operate to make sacrifices. Electoral reaction would be unequivocal, would demand an immediate renunciation of ambitions on impeachment. No way. Actually, skip that card. Trump is not distracted by impeachment. He's aggressively pushing the agenda. Bet 9. 27. White House didn't last long. The legislative train was continuing. President will continue to aggressively push its agenda. The president facilitated from doing deals with Democrats, Islamic and shot sugar thumbs. Republican senators are banning Trump now over the decision for being co 10-7. Trump's unity conquers the condemnation of the Syria policies from lawmakers in both parties advances the White House. Trump and Hawks lost move the rear break of the president. Lindsay criticizes the blow of McConnell best McConnell policy shift. White House Syria and expert creates a rift between Trump and the veto. Taiwan needs unity. Rubio castigated the White House solution. He called the new catastrophic. Hell, you should rebuke the link is either thumb or issues are compartmentalized. But in 27 minutes after the same legislative trends, continuing president will continue to push his agenda. Long means to continue on spending bills. The House has been steadily churning out legislation, including firearms. McConnell's focus on judicial nominations over Henderson facilitated from leading the door over into doing deals with Democrats. Slamming your shit. No removal is in a blocks ball 924. Senate Republicans about to quash impeachment. Say there's no grounds. You can't tell me they're talking about impeachment. The president is cooperating with them 100% really seasoning. Democrats have made the bipartisan exercise. Congressional support is strong now. Ball 19. Trump all defense is holding in the Senate. Republicans both not endorse the impeachment. Modi, a political mistake for the GP to Lord to take out Trump unless there's an enormous smoking if they're going to stick with Trump. Republicans do have to flake Trump first favorability down in the team's caucus focusing on healthcare, the economy, security, immigration. Trump is winning in 2020 due to a strong United. Actually, forget that. Stand ready for process.
Okay, so starting off with a war advantage, why is China key to non-proliferation?
Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Why is China key to non-proliferation?
Right, so China is actively providing nuclear technology to countries like Pakistan, Iran, and North Korea now because they're using issue linkage once the US has sold F-16 sales. If we block those F-16 sales or revoke the arms deals, we'll stop providing nuclear technology to those countries who are owned.
And China is just
Okay, so
another
have the
vector of
F-16
power
sales
that
gone
is
through
apply
before?
pressure.
F-16Bs have never gone through before. There have been F-16As and Bs in the past, but those A were pre-2000s. I believe they were in the 1990s, and F-16As and Bs are uniquely defensive weapons compared to the F-16Bs, which are offensive weapons. Those cross China's red line. That's the evidence in the one you see.
Okay, so most of your China retaliation evidence is in context of China just having a verbal retaliation, saying that the U.S. should stop selling arms. What makes them actually use military action this time?
Could you cite any examples of that in the one I see? Because all of our evidence cites that if the U.S. continues arms sales, that makes China mad. And there are other separate internal links, one of which I can explain right now. Basically, China is reaching parity with the U.S. in their sphere of influence in East Asia. Once they catch up, that will lead to nuclear war because they won't be afraid to challenge U.S. primacy in the region.
Okay, so if China's increasing its sphere of influence, how does that give itself to defensive realism?
They're increasing their sphere of influence because the U.S. is invading the Asian region now, and
They see our arms sales to Taiwan as an encroachment on their territory, which defensive realists react with aggression. The only reason they're being aggressive is because they see the U.S. as being aggressive in response.
So what's the bright line for this aggression to actually spill over into global war?
So there are three separate internal links. First of all, the one I was explaining, China's economy and population is growing now, and they're eventually going to reach parity. When they reach parity with the U.S., they'll be able to challenge U.S. primacy. That's the first internal link. Second internal link, F-16s embolden the Taiwanese independence movement. If Tsai decides to declare independence, that obviously causes China to retaliate.
Okay.
And do you want me to explain the third one, or do you want to?
Okay. So on assurances, you say troops outweigh. Why does this mean that arms sales will solve the if Trump
Okay,
introduces other
so
military
the
support.
troops outweigh, so we have troops and other military assurances in countries like Japan and South Korea now, which will prevent them from proliferating, but that doesn't take out the 1AC advantage because the proliferation cited in the 1AC is based on like
We also don't
Iran.
have troops in Taiwan, so
Okay.
this is just specific to
Okay,
Japan
that
and
makes
South Korea.
sense. So on impeachment, your Bennett evidence is in context of Democrats wanting to impeach Trump. How does that assume that the GOP is still with him?
Sorry, I'm confused.
Your Bennett evidence is like, there's a number, like Democrats want to impeach him. How does that assume
That bill
Republicans?
just says that those people consider, like, that legislators consider impeachment separate from legislative priorities. An example of this is that they're working on spending bills now despite trying to impeach him.
I have 10 minutes.
Oh, I also sent that other card out on red lines. Stop partners and
How much you have?
754. The order is going to be impeachment, red lines, Salami counterplan, deterrence counterplan, war relations.
Can you get that order again?
Impeachment, red lines, Salami counterplan, deterrence counterplan, war relations. Is that all good?
Let me.
Concede serious thumbs when going for impeachment on red lines. Concede affirmative votes to just a test of competition. On Salami, I'll answer condo here. One argument and innovation because debaters are risk averse. They will read or earlier introduce new positions into a debate unless they're giving a fallback option via conditionality, lowering the barrier to entry, causes more educational, more interesting debates. 2, and information processing, more conditional advocacy forces the have to learn how to prioritize while arguments to make and how to make strategic decisions between flows so they don't contradict themselves. 3, gear switching and negotiation skill value in round back and forth between positions, being able to change gears and defend different positions over the course of a debate. This is valuable negotiation and decision making skills. Our interpretation is infinite condo. Don't reject the team. 1, arbitrariness. There's no objective difference between our interpretation. There's an unpredictable rules worse than none because the half content the rules after the 1 and C, which always skews the neg 2 precedent setting as follows. A, judge bias. 90% of judges are ideological biased in condo debate. 2, B, empirics. 2 decades of condo debates and no community consensus proves condo debates can't change the norms. 3, reject the argument. If we lose condo, hold us to every conditional advocacy we read, especially because they're not incompatible. On Salami tactics, the counterplan solves the case by selling the same amount of arms but over a much longer time. Plans 1, 3 solve China aggression and ensure the PRC that China won't declare independence. Plans 4 to 6 continue arms sales and ensure Taiwan still understands that the U.S. is upholding its commitments. You should evaluate the counterplan through a lens of sufficiency. We don't need to win 100% solvency as long as the risk of the benefit is large enough. It doesn't matter if there's a small risk that China retaliates and Salami tactics solve escalation, changing the process of arms sales, depoliticize Altman. 16, Salami tactics can avoid a crisis. China would find a difficult threat in war of the sale after delivering only months before and cannot enforce another modest and ordinary sale over a suspension of arms will solidify into a precedent. The Salami tactics approach is approved by avoiding any act that arms the Chinese interests, and the counterplan solves alliances, research strategic ambiguity, and shows allies that U.S. has interest in the region. That's Altman and they say perm both, but the perm steppers can't continue arms sales and reduce them. At the same time, linked to net benefit alliances will still see reduced arms sales, which causes them to proliferate. Also lets China take control of the region. They say perm do the counterplan, because it's the same thing as a substantial reduction, but a substantial reduction means it's not Salami because we split up the $1 billion bill that our counterplan takes into several sales, which means it's way less than a billion. Go on to non-prolif. The counterplan solves the relations advantage and has an assurances that benefit, keeps arms, increases assurance, and encourages China to participate in the NPT and clarify nuclear policies. This solves prolif because it sends the signal that we're continuing to sell arms and support Taiwan. It solves U.S.-China war, encouraging participation in the NPT, discourages China from stopping and participating in the non-prolif. They don't solve anyway. Their evidence concedes that arms don't give a strong enough signal to China we're stopping the support. You should prefer this counterplan because it's the most probable solution. Policymakers have started proposing plans like this to avoid the prolif impacts. Don't buy their Taiwan arms key argument. That's Kim, and they say the perm do the counterplan, but that severs. We continue arms sales, and they say perm do both, but that also severs. Can't continue arms sales and reduce them at the same time, and it looks to the net benefit. And they say it doesn't solve the app, but yes, it does. It solves non-proliferation because it encourages China to increase participation in the NPT, which causes other countries to stop proliferating. And they say it doesn't solve independence, but I'll do more of that on case on war. Extend Taiwan weak. Beijing uses expanding influence with financial sway to cut off Taiwan's other allies, the Solomon, El Salvador, Panama, Sao Tome, and Principe, the Dominican Republic, Burkina Faso have all separate ties with Taipei. This makes U.S. support even more key. That's Crenshaw and Xi prefer. It's the most recent. They say it doesn't matter because perception, but that's such a generic argument. China has been taking out Taiwan's diplomatic allies recently, which makes Taiwan unable to get independence. They say China, even if they say China perception is key, obviously China thinks that they're winning the war for independence, which means that they won't react to independence because they think they're taking out their allies. And extend invasion inevitable. She said China will resort to violence to acquire Taiwan. This will happen anyway, but withdrawing arms realize China to invade now. That's Pomfret. China's offensive realist. Historically, they pocket the concession to take U.S. withdrawal as more room for China expansionism. That's when they say it's after F-16 sales, but Pomfret doesn't even reference F-16 sales. Pomfret just assumes that China has always been revisionist, and backing down causes Russian and Chinese spheres of influence and overexpansion, which escalates nuclear conflict. Brickle and Mitchell 16. British powers using the strategy of prepping to test American power. China and Russia were learning from one another to spread the world, entertaining the path to war and the formats of the large. Partially says U.S. could be confronted with a great power war against nuclear warfare. Competitors Russia, China are unsure of remaining strength. The U.S. has to allies. Deterrence rests on the assumption among U.S. is able to fulfill security obligation and political willing to do so. Successful probes culminating in military confrontation could convince Russia, China, time is hard for contest. The U.S. would face a nuclear attack and extend U.S. presence key. The only thing stopping China from invading Taiwan is U.S. presence. Skull favors and continue arms to Taiwan haven't triggered invasion yet. That's Pomfret. They say they're not revisionists, but they say. Arms sales are key to signal U.S. resolve and willingness to support Taiwan. Mazda 19 symbols value Taiwan's purchase of aircraft to be a clear statement of American commitment. So it would include logistical support and training. Warcraft pilots would be alongside U.S. This would make useful signaling when Beijing seems eager to snuff out Taiwan, and cutting arms sales crushes credibility risks of using China. No one can build it in deterrence high. Cheng 18. New arms sales to help Taiwan maintain credibility as China has increased pressure. Preserving airspace will be vital. They're part of a larger mosaic of U.S. efforts to express support, including the Travel Act, call from Tsai, and diplomatic ability as Taiwan most vital part. The U.S. must push back against encouragement, or no one else will, and extend China when spills over. When the U.S. withdraws, Taiwan is left with no more diplomatic or military backing. That means a quick China when this spills over. Taiwan's strategic position allows China to use ballistic missiles to enforce the 9-9 line and threaten U.S. Navy ships in the SES, target traders, and expand to the Southeast Asian countries. That's Bosco. We say China's revisionist, but even if they're not, China's victory is too much for them to resist. They think Taiwan is part of their land, which means they'll take over, and China aggression goes global. International system at risk. Figure 11. China's behavior Taiwan indicates will on that world stage. Taiwan drives their modernization. Taiwan is present through which we can understand China. Mark the card there. They say attack quickly, but when we've been selling arms to Taiwan for years and China hasn't attacked, that means even if there's a risk of loss to arms, the time frame is extremely long. She explicitly said that China will use force to acquire Taiwan. This hasn't happened yet because of military presence in Taiwan that's gone for 3. Withdrawal from Taiwan is a bigger policy change when they continue our policy of selling arms that more likely to cause change in Chinese behavior, i.e. invasion, and they say long author, but this card is in context of the F-16 VJet's new offensive text that has never been sold to Taiwan before. China only responded with the verbal warning, just like to the previous arms deals before the F-16. No bright line, a $2 billion deal, and offensive jets haven't triggered the impact. And they say relations deter war, but their card only says that Beijing has less to lose when relations are about trade war and current into the Taiwan thumb. Even China is really to bring the U.S.-China relations has leverage and extend no U.S.-China war. Both countries view each other as key partners in trade and restrain rivalry, low military competition, and lack of public support made nuclear war unlikely. That's Heat 17. And they say that Taiwan is key, but no, trade war is the key thing in the relationship. Go into relations. Extend U.S. and China engagement. China knows its best interest and would be to work with the U.S. and to de-escalate tensions. Conflicts will make it risk its economy, and even driving U.S. out of Asia can have repercussions that makes relations inevitable. That's Zhao. And they say Taiwan is the only factor, but no, they have economic. She prefers economic reasons over Taiwan, especially because he's locked in for life, which means he prefers his credibility and high-level political commitments ensure strength of 1 to 15. Despite irritation, U.S.-China relations remain on an upswing. Global disagreements remain. Outlook is positive. China has recently softened its stance on foreign policy. Mark the card there. And extend arms sales won't spill over. There are too many issues with the sign of American cooperation. The arms sales won't have a broader effect on U.S.-China relations. China has been reluctant to retaliate to U.S. arms sales as Castro, and they extend their 1AC Chen plan won't improve relations. Arms sales are a meaningful concession. They say key to non-prolif, but again, trade war is the biggest issue in their relationship. And extent of cooperation doesn't spill over. There are several issues with the plan. Asia is filled with other security concerns, and most would be reluctant to follow China. China is in a fragile state, and that makes us an unpredictable player.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
How often would you sell the arms under the salami slicing counter plan?
Okay, so our plan text says just like incremental. Like we don't have like a set like how often. Maybe like once a year.
Okay, arms sales to Taiwan are already once a year, or even less than that.
Okay.
What's the difference between the salami sales and counter plan and the plan?
Okay, well, splitting up the arms sales like into small sales will make China think that like it would go basically under the radar, because your plan is this huge sale of offensive jets, right? Which is what triggers your link. But if it's small sales of offensive jets, like before you said a few jets wouldn't like should have deterred China, or like China wouldn't care about a few jets. If it's really just a few jets, then like one jet wouldn't make a difference. Like a couple of jets at a time won't make any difference, right?
Okay, I didn't really understand that, but how big would the sales be compared to the plan?
Like, I don't know exactly how much, but like a fraction of it. Like
A fraction? What's a fraction?
like just like a small amount of it. Like it just splits it up into several sales. Like there's not like a concrete like our
Okay, how does the salami slicing counter plan solve relations? Obviously, China cares a ton about arms sales.
Okay, it solves relations because it's the same like link, because it's under the radar. China doesn't notice it as much and doesn't realize that we're like supplying them with a lot of arms sales. Usually when
no. So any arms sales over, I believe, $20 million have to be notified through Congress, which means they won't be.
Okay, they have to notify Congress. That doesn't like trigger.
Okay, what's the difference between $800 million worth of sales and $1 billion worth of sales.
It's not $800 million of sales. It splits it up into a lot less.
Okay, fine. What's the difference between $200 billion worth of sales and $1 billion worth of sales?
It's substantially less. $1 billion sales.
Alright, that's fine. On relations, your engagement and inevitable extension, which card was this in the 1 and C?
Engagement inevitable.
Yep.
That was the first 3 cards on the war.
That was the first 3 cards on war.
No.
Cooperation.
Wait.
No, on relations. Like,
Oh.
Did you read that in the 1 and C? No, that's fine. It's
wait,
cool.
did you not read that card?
No, it's
Yes,
fine.
I
Don't worry
read
about it. Okay, where'd my tell one? Alright, you're using influence to cut off allies extension. When is the evidence from?
Are you using influence to cut off allies?
Yeah. You said Beijing is using their influence to cut off Taiwan's allies.
Oh, okay. Our evidence is from September.
So that's after the F-16 sales, right?
No, like, I don't know. It doesn't.
Wait, sorry,
Okay,
what's your
that's
question?
fine. Don't worry about it. Thank you.
Consent. The order is assurances. Is everything good? U.S. disinterest causes proliferation. Regional allies and aims to feel alienated by U.S. disinterest and turn the proliferation to replace the nuclear umbrella escalates potential for regional conflict. That's scary. You should prefer our time plan. It will be quick if assurances collapse. Samuels 13. Watching your reluctant waiting and sensitive issue. U.S. aware efforts to dissuade Tokyo reacting strike capacity unsuccessful might accelerate the loss of Japanese confidence prompting even quicker development. Independent allies. They say that after turns, but after doesn't turn. Our one and evidence says that the MTT failed its own in context of this. They said that China was providing nuclear weapons, but the Pakistan can't proliferate and no go rendered non-unique. They already violated the NPT and the counterpoints also that, and they say troops that way. But oh shoot, I didn't put that in. I'll put that in. I'll send that later. Yeah, I can. I'll go back. They say assurance is low, but allies are secure now. U.S.-China competition, Taiwan defensive security equipment agreements, as well as Taiwan travel lag indicates that allies that the U.S. still maintains a strategic interest in supporting them. That's why, and East Asian assurance is a high now. Colonizing Cosmola 19. As the president fully trying to switch away from campaign, there's a favor of diplomatic relations, Koreans, Japanese, clear lines of Trump narrative. Although Trump openly criticizing PBT as proof stronger military and diplomatic measures towards Asia, Trump military expansion, polluting evidence in Asia, although Trump's initial isolation is to support create that dissatisfaction among the Asian states, military gradually dissolve after dissolve and go back to troops stalls, but troops not key. Record 14. Measuring the use coming on the basis of boots on the ground is not traditional. Measure is the involvement and don't measure on the basis of boots on the ground. They say no link, but relations links the hardest. Relations link plans U.S.-China cooperates. Japanese fears of abandonment crushes credibility. The security sits in the broad relations. K 13. Difficulty Japan-U.S. relations concerns alternative order. U.S.-China alliance perceived order. U.S.-China alliance. U.S. will maintain belief even if Japan U.S. dissolves for Japan implies it will be controlled to quasi-alliance of Japan. Japan will Nixon announced the normalization and constituting running up security treaty for U.S. interest environment. Similarly, U.S. is stressing this wars from China's perceived to challenge China. It's a friend of me that words from believing his only time before another Nixon shock. And they say Taiwan's different, but Taiwan's key because the U.S. has always supported Taiwan, and it's a strong indicator of how much the U.S. is willing to support its allies because Taiwan is the most risky alliance for the U.S. and the plan trust U.S. commitment to Taiwan to erode the confidence of allies and projects U.S. weakness that ensures East Asian instability and China aggression. Volume 17. Still one of the most visible signs of American commitment to allies in the region. Ourselves go beyond verticals where the U.S. is providing ally hard policies the same commitment to them as does Taiwan. Aiming almost 40-year policy was sent shockingly through the region to allies and regional likely U.S. appeasement and China perceived weakness could greatly erode the confidence of Asia Pacific allies, namely South Korea, Japan, and Philippines. Allies may worry their own arms dealing in jeopardy with the U.S. commitment to defense, market defense. They say Japan turned, but stopping offensive arms sales freaks out Japan even if they're useless. How much 15? If the U.S. ability to achieve security defensive purchase allows to not share this temptation, allies attach tremendous symbolic importance to decision about arms even when the choices of little impact ability the allies prefer robust offensive operation because the indicated willingness justify aggressively mostly full application of U.S. powers and their cards from 2015. It doesn't assume that Trump's diplomacy has decked U.S. diplomatic credibility. Only arms deals are the material signal of supporting the allies. That's twining. Also, Taiwan's key to Japanese interests. So when the U.S. stops selling arms to Taiwan, Japan is uniquely threatened. They say Trump decreases alliances. I did that work above Trump. Diplomacy doesn't matter because arms sales are key. They say commonly across supply weighing that China's offensive realist. They say Japan doesn't proliferate. Japan will proliferate offensive strike in response to nuclear war. Wadsworth 19. Japan's struggle to decrease confidence in U.S. power and interpreted the science. Tokyo's losing confidence to start generation loses allies to develop their own capabilities, increasing stability. Environments since the result Korea's nuclear weapons. The East SES armament and lacking in dialogue and resolution territorial space heading mistrust increase degrees and conflicts, escalating war beating with Korean Japanese abilities, causing premature escalation that would draw the U.S. Japan hierarchy relations easily spiral out of control, market control. And loss of alliance credit causes Japan proliferates nuclear war, even the ineffective development causes preemptive conflicts. Miller 16. Alice Gore senior president intervening with threatening nuclear rounds, increasing the risk of U.S. Given conflicts might turn nuclear. Japan rebels to launch preventive attacks, early acquisition, increasing militarized conflict. Japan acquired legacy arms race, circular militarism, nuclear would expand. China expand. Domino effects but that's largely because of U.S. efforts. NPT is limit spread by beliefs. Japan would withdraw that would prompt Saudi Arabia, Germany, Iran to consider nuclear accident and miscount are likely, market likely. They say Ahsoka's not here, but Trump doesn't matter. I did that work above. Only material arms sales are key. They say Thumper, but it's not a real Thumper. If you read their card, it only says that Ahsoka doesn't proliferate, but no economic constraints. Ferguson 15. South Korea has become globally supplying commodity goods around the world, especially the U.S. South Korea likely whether it's sanction considering precedent in India and India connected to test with the sanctions not last longer. Use Korea relative wealthy take pride in private democracy and Ahsoka means market diplomacy, and Soka means civilian engineering scientific desire on 14. Soka is equipped with technical industrial capacity to produce nuclear warheads.
Take right. I'm sure.
819.
Do y'all want to mark version?
Yes, please. So, do you want us to put like the deterrence stuff on the counterplan flow, or where do you want that? Because they haven't really extended the deterrence counterplan.
Put it wherever you want.
Yeah, okay, I will figure it out. We'll start prep one.
Okay.
Okay.
Alright, so
Okay, we're just gonna put deterrence under case, I guess.
Yeah,
That's
that's what we.
Okay.
Even if it takes like 2 minutes.
It was originally kind of like
Less than 20 seconds. Yeah, you like got to turn, was it good enough time to turn on the light?
I'll send it down. You can just open it.
What is it?
Or we can stop prep. Okay.
What is it?
We can stop prep.
They didn't stop.
They didn't stop prep. Oh, sorry. I thought they said we're ready to stop prep.
Okay,
Sorry.
all right. Yeah. Now we're good. 149. The cards are sent out.
I started like when you were saying that.
Yeah, I did too, and then they started it, you know.
Okay. The order will be case in order of NYC, which is additional regulations. then the Salami slicing counter plan, advantage counter plan, then the dissent. It's not right here, I think.
War relations, Salami slicing, deterrence. Yeah.
Okay, so case in order, the Salami slicing counter plan, the deterrence counter plan, the assurance is just.
Yes. All right, so there it is. Okay.
Major framing issue for this debate, they've conceded that Chinese attempts at reunification are inevitable. That means there's only a risk that the attempts are peaceful, which takes out both of their counterplans, because any commitment to forces China to Taiwan causes China to act aggressively to reclaim it. In the plan, under the world of the plan, Taiwan becomes Finlandized, and China slowly integrates them through diplomacy. That's here in Gilly on advantage. They say China is using influence to cut off allies. Their evidence is about F-16 V sales confirm this arc flows out because aggression comes once we sold arms. They say invasion is inevitable. Their right unification is inevitable in this quote, but deterrence fails anyway. This also flows out because F-16s are fail making invasion and will allow. The question is whether the invasion is hostile, like the blockade outlined in Talmadge, or a slow diplomatic unification outlined in Gilly. They say offense realism, China's not revision, is to empirics true that China wants to preserve the status quo, but that Taiwan is the one issue that China wants to change. 1. Diplomatic resolutions, the border disputes. 2. A decrease in aggressive rhetoric. 3. International cooperation. 4. Trade cooperation with the WTO. 5. Non-proliferation. 6. Help the U.S. with North Korea. That should lead if we win the version debate. Often then they don't get the term because containment will spark more conflict, and appeasement will cause war. SES conflict flows aft. That's Radicchio attempts to China's attempt to cooperation in that region, and their aggression is only reactionary policies to the United States, and we'll concede China wins after U.S. pulls out. This just proves the war won't escalate. U.S.-China war happens. China is hell-bent on reunification that escalates. That's under Talmadge because they blockade with their submarines, but the submarines have nuclear weapons on it. U.S. response that Bill Clinton proves. Clinton moved aircraft carriers when China acted a bit aggressively on Taiwan. Trump would literally do that by the times million, and so he strikes the submarines. The submarines have nuclear weapons. China feels that the U.S. is trying to take out the nuclear weapons, nuclear arsenal, which means they respond with nuclear weapons. On the relation deterrence stuff, deterrence ultimately fails. One, China cares far too much about Taiwan and to be deterred from communication by a few jets and tank sales. It's the opposite of utilitarian calculation. 2, increasing military spending is unsustainable, and when conceded. A, China's population and economy is advancing too quickly that we can't keep up with their spending, and recent sales to Taiwan have capped at $2 billion, which it spends, while China spends $200 billion annually. That's here in Gomez. I'm not going to read this button card. Strengthening U.S.-China relations is a key factor to deter war. A single acceptance of Chinese territorial integrity leads to forced reduction by China and ends their Taiwan-centric attack drills. The plan creates a model for U.S.-China relations in the Pacific and a peaceful rise of China. That's Gilly ending ourselves boost relationship, which means there's more to lose if China decides to start a war, demolishes the probability of conflict. That shit, China will be restrained by improving relations with shipments in 19. China face good reason to avoid predation. Doing so would help U.S. cooperation managing the act as my friend, the Chinese security U.S. citizen for less threatening to challenge China as a supporter of the U.S. would argue for offshore balancing strategy that reduce the U.S. role would increase the likelihood that Chinese leaders will conclude the U.S. leads less threatening to China than other great powers on the relations advantage. They say engagement inevitable wasn't in the 1 and 6, so don't evaluate it, and it doesn't matter if their F is too old and doesn't take into account the F-16V offensive sales. They say no spillover, they're wrong. They have and answered our claims that China is specifically providing nuclear technology to countries now that use issue links to create which creates linear impact that escalates. The plan doesn't improve relations, it spills over because Taiwan is the one thing that China cares most about. That's saying China's not all talk. Their argument about blocking alliances proves on the Salami slicing guy, but this is just unique. He's kind of plan in no way. So this case around Taiwan is predicated off of commitments to Taiwan signaling U.S. Chinese attention to encroach on their territory, which means that when they attempt reunification, they feel they have to act aggressively to successfully retake Taiwan, and it doesn't solve self-relationship in the Taiwan Sea prove that any commitment to Taiwan made China mad. Even if Taiwan doesn't declare an event, structural factors being they tip reunification anyway. Sufficiency framing is a bad sentence, justifies voting on terrible dissents, and earns education because it discourages reading good dissent. Their Olin card is not contextualized to the app. It just says it prevents China from getting angry over one say about that it prevents China from getting about the idea of use commitment double line. Either they decrease commitments enough to anger our allies, or they make them too often, and China gets mad. They've conceded competition on perm to the cap plan. Even a substantial reduction doesn't require a step process. No answers, which means you give full weight to the perm. Severe issue with this counterplan, the event counterplan. Severe issue with this counterplan, even there's a chance that it all solves the U.S.-China war. It can't solve U.S.-China relations, which means we automatically win an external impact on proliferation. This is counterplan is counterintuitive. We can't both double down on our commitment to Taiwan, which China and she see as an existential issue to them, and then ask them to do us a favor. The HIM evidence says China engaged in issue linkage which, and in no way they will co-op a prolific. We keep selling arms on the chin. Evidence they're re-highlighting is honestly abusive. It takes the card out of context. The part they highlight, it says if arms are too expensive and counterproductive, then they send a signal that is almost word for word how the chin, then they send a signal which is almost word to word for how Chin describes his current arm cells. Good alliances. The access prolific federal capability scenario requires an intermittent prolific by continuing arm cells. Taiwan guarantees that China continues their pursuit of providing their allies with nuclear technology to easily develop two targets. After proliferation comes through dangerous impulsive powers like Pakistan, North Korea, Iran, increase the chance of war compared to prolific democratic countries like China and SOCO. Trump collapses the strengths of now psychology impulsiveness, encourage ignoring traditional alliances norms that's wrong, and troops are key. Use military deployments and prevent each stage of proliferation, especially specifically if we continue troop deployments, then proliferation remains unlikely that Slonoska doesn't adopt the app because proliferation occurs in different countries in each scenario. Their card is in the context of Arab states. It doesn't apply, and Taiwan's a state to tank South the Lake 1. They're not a treaty ally different from our alliance with Japan and South Korea. Two partners don't even recognize sovereignty. They clearly don't care about Taiwan. 3, compartmentalization.
We have 754. Okay. The order is going to be assurances, deterrence, Salami, war, relations.
The deterrence counterplan, right?
Yeah, sorry.
Can you do that one more time?
Yeah, assurances, deterrence counterplan, Salami counterplan, war, relations. Is anyone not ready?
This round comes down to a high risk of East Asian allies proliferating and a low risk of U.S.-China war. Japan and South Korea for the worst impact in the round that they can't solve. Once Japan or South Korea develops nuclear weapons, Beijing would preempt strike capabilities by causing premature escalation in response to withdrawing the U.S. This leads to nuclear war across East Asia, which would lead to nuclear winter because all of the East Asian countries would participate in the nuclear war, causing mass extinction. And we outweigh our probability. Japan proliferation is the most likely scenario. U.S. withdrawing from a key ally like Taiwan would cause Japan to freak out. They attach massive symbolic meaning to arms sales, and if we stop selling arms to Taiwan, it would look like we're stopping protecting our allies from China, which would make Japan think that they have to start defending themselves as a result. That's Tao match. This independently is a turns to the relation advantage because increasing relations with China would only frighten East Asian allies, especially South Korea and Japan, because they rely on U.S. to protect them from China, so us conceding to them seems like we've gone to their side. Also, their relations advantage is not unique. They can't solve prolif because the only countries their card allies is Iraq, Iran, North Korea, which have already started proliferating and obviously won't cooperate with China, which means you should only prefer the disadded. We outweigh on time frame of Japan proliferation would happen as soon as we stop selling arms to Taiwan, which would immediately cause Beijing to react. And the only two arguments they have on this flow is troops solve and collapsing assurances. Now, one, troops don't solve. Well, it's completely counterintuitive. Obviously, troops isn't enough to guarantee security from China's attacks and invasions. Japan and South Korea fear they want to be able to protect themselves, which only arms can do. Us keeping troops in the region means nothing. Our Frager card is really specific about how troops are never used to measure commitment. Only direct support is their extrapolation wasn't great in the 1AR. It wasn't about Arab states, and even if it was, it just proves that other alliances don't use troops as a measure of commitment. And they say collapsing assurances now, but this was a complete shadow extension. Don't allow new spins in the 2AR. Also, assurances are high now. They didn't answer our uniqueness evidence. Trump is irrelevant, and our coal mass evidence directly assumes Trump. It says Trump has switched away from campaign threats in favor of good diplomatic relations with Korean and Japanese, and one of the clear signals has been he has been affirming stronger relations with Japan and Prime Minister Abe and President Moon in South Korea, which proves that assurances are high now, even assuming Trump. And either they improve U.S.-China relations or you don't. Lincoln don't solve the case, which means you should prefer the assurances dissent over everything. And they say that's all they said on this. Okay. On the deterrence counterplan, concede that we can't solve. We're not going for this. The premise has competition. And on Salami counterplan, concede we're not going for this. On war, we're going for the deterrence turn. If we win the deterrence and offensive realist, we win the case. They say F-16Bs, but they don't provide a bright line for why or when China reacts to these sales. And extent China hasn't tacted, and that withdrawing from Taiwan is a bigger policy shift and more likely to trigger changes in foreign relations negatively. Status quo flows neg. And on deterrence, they say China win flows out, but no, Chinese invasion is inevitable. After the plan, it happens immediately. China win spills over in depth international system. That's rigor. Their Clinton argument doesn't apply. It's not contextualized to Trump. And they say it fails, but deterrence is key. China hasn't gone further than aggressive rhetoric. That's their own long evidence. And they say multiple reasons they're revisionist, but they're clearly revisionist, even if not deterrence solves. This was light in the 2NC, but there's no U.S.-China war. She was locked in for life recently and knows that it would cost a lot of money to start a U.S.-China war. This dexes relations in the CCP, which obviously means that he would start a war. Also, our evidence directly says that U.S. and China have been trying to avoid a war because both leaders knows that it would cost a lot economically. So even if China would be mad about Taiwan, they've been mad about Taiwan before, and nothing's happened. And they say
One, this invention doesn't matter even if they solve that makes them link harder to the dissat. Don't let them come back in the two-way or they conceded our specific link in the one error. Course apply assurance with double Y on this flow. They say restraint, this isn't connected to Taiwan. Control F it. And 3, no spillover. Arms are just a symbol. China has not retaliated. Cross supply pomfret. Only U.S. military presence deters. There's no way you can vote on this advantage, especially because it's non-unique. I said this at the top, and their solvency card only proves that they stop proliferation in Iran, Iraq, and North Korea, which isn't a clear link chain how they would do so, especially because Iran, Iraq, and North Korea are specifically aggressive states who have been trying to proliferate forever, and China wouldn't be able to prevent this. None of their evidence says how in the 1AR there's no clear internal link scenario how they solve this.
149. Orders, Taiwan War, relations, and dissat. Deterrence stuff is under Taiwan War. Ready? We win a higher magnitude of proliferation in this debate. You weigh proliferation of East Asian democratic countries who already have several restrictions on against proliferation of impulsive, revisionist, and authoritarian countries like Iran, Pakistan, and North Korea. Those countries have empirically been more impulsive and will lash out and more. There's been more proliferation
Like Iraq, Syria, Libya, and Romania.
countries like Iraq, Syria, Romania.
New proliferators. Yeah.
Which are new proliferators, takes up their argument about they've proliferated in the past, and we have an external impact of global proliferation while they only have 2 countries proliferating. On the revisionism debate, China's not revisionist. Empirics prove they have no empirical examples, which means you weigh ours first. Here's 6 individual warrants. 1, they pursued cooperative and friendly approaches with countries like India, who've previously been reliable. 2, they've settled border disputes with countries like Myanmar, Nepal, Pakistan, Russia, and Vietnam. 3, they've increased international engagement within the community to join the APEC, the ARF, the East Asia Summit. They're an active member of the SEO, the UN, and the WTO. 4, they've initiated projects like the CPEC, which continues towards economic regionalization. 5, they've stabilized 5, they've adopted a strategy of engagement and cooperation towards other claimants at SES. That's Radicchio and Jalil. If we win the revisionism debate, then they don't get any of their dissouts, because any encroachment in U.S. territory is enough to inevitably cause conflict and backlash from China. They also don't get the deterrence turn. On to the deterrence turn. Deterrence fails. 3 separate warrants, and 2 of them have been completely conceded throughout this entire debate. First, we're waiting into the revision into the debate, but if you do think they're offensive realists, there's a double bind which takes out their entire terror. If China's hellbent on world domination, then a few F-16 jets won't stop them. They won't be deterred from reunification. That means the dissad links even harder to the deterrence turn because the smaller, And second, they've conceded the unsustainability claims. China's population and economy are advancing now. We can't keep up with their spending. They dropped the parity and sphere of influence internal links throughout this entire debate. I'll explain those now. China is reaching a state of parity with the United States influence in the East Asian region. Once they catch up, they'll feel emboldened to challenge U.S. primacy. That proves F-16 jet sales won't deter China because they're advancing too fast. And they've also conceded that China spends over $200 billion on defense spending, while our jet sales have maxed out at $2 billion. Third, jets are garbage. They're just flashy weapons that won't do anything because when China doesn't decide to invade, they won't be able to attack through the air. They'll have to use subs and ships, which means F-16s deter absolutely nothing but China. Taiwan's mountainous regions will deter any chance of jet sales. They say no U.S.-China war, but they're only warning that Xi doesn't want to. We'll concede that Xi does not want to go to war, but he doesn't have a choice. China will blockade Taiwan, which does in the U.S., and they'll try to avoid conflict, but conventional and nuclear forces are intermingled, which forces a great power war. That's Tom Hodge now.
And he doesn't want to go to war because of, he would go to war because of nationalist pressures.
He would go to war because of nationalist pressures. Now, he literally ran on reunifying Taiwan and China. And now, on the relations turn for deterrence, their answer was a 5-second blip in the 2NC and 2NR. So you evaluate our substantive evidence analysis. A, signaling acceptance of Chinese territorial integrity leads to force reductions by China, and ends our Taiwan-centric attack drills. The plan creates a model for U.S.-Sino relations in the Pacific and a peaceful rise of China that's Gilly B. Any arms sales boost relations, which means there's more to lose if China decides to start a war that demolishes the probability of conflict. That's Chen. On the relations flow, they misunderstand the Carlson evidence. It says that China can not only help solve countries like Iran, Iraq, and North Korea from proliferating further, but they can also stop new proliferating states like Romania, Libya, and Syria, and many, many more. Yes, spillover, there isn't a better card in this debate than what I see him. It says that China's is not cooperating only because we sell arms to Taiwan, and it's reverse causal. If we win the revisionism debate, then they don't get any of their defense. Cooperation is not inevitable for Carson, it's more recent, and none of their cooperation cards recontextualize the cooperation and proliferation. And here says once we stop selling arms, that solves all competition, which takes out their no cooperation evidence. Onto the dissad. Access is prolif better. 1 capability. Their scenario requires independent prolif from Japan, South Korea, but continuing arms sales to Taiwan guarantees that China continues their pursuit of providing their allies with nuclear technology to easily develop them. 2 targets. Proliferation comes through dangerous impulsive powers. That's on the overview. They totally dropped the uniqueness debate. It might have only been 10 seconds on what they are, but since they totally conceded it, you give full weight to the app on this question. Trump psychology, impulsiveness, and ignoring traditional alliance structures collapse their assurance now. That's Wong, and they mishandled the troops debate. The card was called U.S. Troops Commitment to Gulf Arab Allies. It's not about whether or not the troops are effective at deterring China, and the only warrant they have in this card is that it's not a measure of commitments. Whatever, it doesn't matter. There are other military commitments that we have to countries in, like Japan and South Korea that would prevent them from proliferating. They've also dropped the Taiwan not key and distinct. 1, they're not a treaty ally. It's different from our alliances with Japan, South Korea. We have a clear rationale for not defending Taiwan. We don't have a treaty with them that obligates us to defend them. That's totally different from Japan and South Korea because they know we'll defend them in case of conflict. And 2, part of the Japan and South Korea don't even recognize Taiwan sovereignty. They clearly don't care about Taiwan. And because we share impacts of U.S.-China war, then we immediately outweigh a magnitude of global prolif. But they don't get the time frame arguments because Japan has not started proliferating yet. And 3, compartmentalization. Other alliances see a clear rationale for any commitment to Taiwan. They'll understand cutting the sales, and the alliances involve stronger commitments in military integration compared to Taiwan.
Can I get a card doc from both these?
What? Like,
Stop insurance.
Just case insurance.
I got it. I'll take care of the card.
okay.
Can I send them to you and then you print it out?
No, I didn't. I have it.
Yeah.
Wait, I forgot to put.
Just send it out.
The 2NR makes this argument that deterrence is good because of their Wong evidence. Is that in the 2AC or the 1AC? The 2NR makes the argument that deterrence is good because of their Wong evidence. Are you referring to the Wong evidence in the 2AC, or is there a Wong card in the 1AC?
There's not a one card.
So the 2AC, I guess?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
She actually said the long minutes. Yeah.
do I stop this? Maybe? Nope. That's awkward. Asher, do you think you know how to stop this?